final pay-per-view of 2025 and the final pay-per-view of the ESPN era is in the books. UFC 323 took place this past Saturday in Vegas, and we saw two new champions crowned in the main event. We saw Petr Yan defeat Merab Dvalishvili to become the new 135-pound king, and in the co-main event, Joshua Van defeated Alex Pantoja to become the new flyweight champion, among many other things on this card. And starting off with the first fight on this main card, which we saw Jan Blachowicz and Bogdan Guskov go to a draw. It was a draw after we saw Blachowicz come on late in the third round, and Guskov picked up a 10-8 round in the second on two of the judges' scorecards. I had Jan winning this fight. He outlanded Guskov in total significant strikes, 84-80 in this one, while Guskov finished with over 4 minutes of control time. Each landed a knockdown in this one. This fight was really exciting. The first round was really good in the third, and the second was a little more of one-way traffic as Guskov dominated Jan. And now for the second time in just his last 4 fights, we see Jan Blachowicz fight to a draw. In his last 4 fights, he's 0-2-2 with 2 losses and 2 draws. So the former light heavyweight king just cannot get going and cannot get back in the win column, which is a little tough to see. And moving on in the second fight of the night, Tatsuya Taira picked up a TKO victory over Brandon Moreno, another former champion who lost. And this happened in the second round, and he had Moreno on the ground. He was unloading strikes, and to me, it was a little bit too early of a stoppage. I thought Moreno was still moving a little bit on the ground. Is it the end of the world? No. Is it the world's worst stoppage ever? No, it isn't. So you had Tatsuya Taira and become a top contender in the flyweight division with an 18-1 record. He's won 2 straight, and he's beaten a former champion and looks like a legit contender that can hang with the elite of that division. Moving on to the 2 biggest fights we had in the co-main event, one of the weirdest endings that I've ever seen. Joshua Van picks up the victory, but the stats and, the record book doesn't tell the whole story because Alex Pantoja dislocated his elbow. Well, Joshua Van become the second youngest champion in UFC history by beating Alex Pantoja, and it didn't happen in the best way possible. It isn't the way you want to see somebody's dominant title reign end and a young champion's new reign start. Because Alex Pantoja, he hit the ground as he was moving because this fight started so quickly, and when he hit the ground, he dislocated his elbow, and immediately he waved off Van and the ref, and obviously appeared that he couldn't compete. And it really is a shame because Alex Pantoja was really hitting that next level in the flyweight division. He was really starting to chase Demetrius Johnson's title reign. That comes to an end unceremoniously, and you now have a super young 24-year-old champion in Joshua Van, and no fault to his own. He won this fight by the rule book, and this is how it is in this sport. If this happens, the title has changed hands, and we've seen it change hands like this before, and we've only seen this a couple times happen, especially so early in a title fight. This didn't just happen in a title fight. This happened 26 seconds into a championship fight, and that is why I think the rules need to be changed. If this happens less than a minute into a title fight, I think there should be a no contest and the title shouldn't change hands. I know by ruling, this is how it is right now, and Josh Van wins the fight. He is the new flyweight champion, but I don't think that somebody's reign should end and a new champion should be crowned based on that, because there wasn't much skill involved in that fight. It was a quick fire fight. Both guys were just throwing a couple of strikes to start, and then before you know it, in the first 26 seconds, Pantoja injured his elbow and was unable to continue. And so I don't think that gold should change hands in this situation. But and although I think Van might have celebrated a tad too much, still not going to fault the guy because he is still a young fighter. He still realized his dream of becoming UFC champion, and that is the facts. That is the reality. And now we have to see what is next. Will Joshua Van take on Tatsuro Taira in his next fight? Will he have a rematch with Alex Pantoja? I do think Pantoja 100% deserves a rematch in his next fight, as we'll get into the same that should be true in the main event. But we don't know how long his recovery will be for this injured elbow. And moving on to the main event, we saw another dominant title reign come to an end. Merab Dvalishvili, who once had a streak of 4 consecutive title wins and 14 straight victories, comes to an end. He suffers his first loss since April of 2018 against a familiar face in Petr Yan, who was just spectacular in this one. Outlanded Merab 139 to 134 in significant strikes. Landed 3 more takedowns than Merab did. He landed 5. Merab only landed 2 of 29 attempts. I don't know how realistic the 29 attempts is, but all I know is that from the second this fight started, Petr Yan brought his A game. Petr Yan was the one bringing the fight to Merab. He was the one unloading and used his versatile skill set on the feet with punches and kicks and everything you can imagine. And the one thing that stood out to me was Petr Yan's the body work that he was doing. He was just destroying Merab's body, had him wincing in pain later in the fight a couple times. It seemed like Merab was going to be unable to compete. He continued through and showed his warrior mentality, but from the start of this fight, it just seemed like Merab couldn't implement his game plan, which is landing takedowns and using that as a weapon with his elite cardio, winning the later rounds. He couldn't do any of that. And when you break this fight down, you think about it, it's one of two things. Was it more of Merab is coming off of, 4 fights in 1 year and didn't have a long layoff? Or is it just Petr Yan was that good in this fight? I think it's a little bit of both. And I'm not going to say that I'm not going to put it fully on Merab having the 4 fights in 1 year, because even he said that he's not putting that as an excuse, because the reality is when you dare to be great, sometimes you come up short. We've seen this in the past. We've seen Israel Adesanya move up in a division, try to capture a second belt, unsuccessful. We've seen guys try to be very active, and it hasn't worked out in the past. So Merab chose to try to achieve something that no one has in the past. Defending his title 4 times in 1 year, came up short. And I'm not going to fault a guy for daring to be great, but I'm also not going to I'm not going to discredit the victor in this fight, which is Petr Yan, because he was spectacular. This was the Petr Yan of his first title reign. Although that reign was short, this was the guy of that win streak before he lost to Aljamain Sterling the first time with the accidental knee, because he was dominant before that. He was a vicious striker. He had a great pace and is just a guy that when he's on his A game is very hard to beat, because he just is so versatile, and he showed in this one that he's not just a striker. He can take people down. He can even take the machine down like he did. The scorecards were 49-46 twice, 48-47 in favor of Petr Yan, and I had it 48-47 in favor of Yan. And this is, like I said it with Pantoja, Merab Dvalishvili's next fight should be for a title. He earned that. He deserved that. He's the most accomplished bantamweight in history still. This does not get taken away by a loss. But do I think that Petr Yan could have a fight in between? Yes, I do. If Sean O'Malley wins in January, that fight could be made until Merab is ready to come back. But overall, a dominant performance from Petr Yan. We have two new champions, Petr Yan and Joshua Van, two new champions heading into 2026. And right now, all of the male UFC champions do not have a title defense in their current reign. You do have two-time champions like Yan, like Alex Pereira, like Alexander Volkanovski, but none of them currently in their current reign have a title defense. But overall, had a little bit of a weird ending when you got into the title fights with the Pantoja injury, but finished off with an incredible main event. Those are my thoughts. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.